Hi everyone, my phone's been running hot today with people wanting to know about BSV after a 45% pump. This chat's a really informative one. It's with the training manager from the Bitcoin Association and SirToshi, a very passionate supporter of the project. Check it out, let me know your thoughts, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I saw on Twitter that you've raised quite a bit of money for the fire service. You guys are obviously...
Yeah.
So congratulations on that, mate, and congratulations to the SV community. It's a significant amount of cash in a short period of time.
Yeah, unbelievable the response, and you know, so it was actually I haven't really spoken too much about this, but in my family, my auntie and my grandmother live down my grandmother lives in Bateman's Bay. My auntie lives about 10 kilometers down the road. And both of their homes were threatened. And at one point, my auntie basically had been told, "Oh, well, your house is going to burn down, and there's nothing you can do about it. So leave town, take all your really precious things, and get ready for the bad news." Luckily for them, nature took mercy, and the fire went in a different direction. And same for my grandma. So where she was, the fire stopped about 4 meters from the wall and just changed direction. And there could have been a real nasty situation if it had gone further. And so that kind of, I just thought, look, these rural fire service, they need support, and I just wanted to see what I could do. And so I just put it out there on Twitter, and within, I think I left it up there for 48 hours. It was over $3,000 raised. And so that I'm amazed. And so thank you to everybody who gave to that appeal. And since then, Eli Afram, who goes by Justice Mate on Twitter, has created a more of a professional gateway to donate, and in that you can select a particular state to give to, and we will accumulate funds in those addresses on that website, and probably once a week or once a month, depending on how much money is in there, we'll process those funds into Australian dollars and pass them to those rural fire services.
Obviously, my audience is sort of outside of the SV crowd as well. Is there anyone if there's anyone watching this that would like to donate, or do they have to onboard to SV to do that, or is there a way they can also contribute?
Look, so we are not the only ones who are collecting money in cryptocurrency and turning it into Australian dollars for those appeals. Yeah. So if you go to finder.com.au, that's finder.com.au, there's details up on their website. I believe they're taking donations in BTC, BCH, LTC, and a couple of other currencies as well. Right. So yeah, that's and look, yeah, please do give. This is this money goes to vital infrastructure and services for those firefighters. So
yeah, and anybody who receives BTC, BCH, or LTC, convert it into dollars as soon as you can, because it's going to zero.
You've been strangely quiet there, Satoshi. I was waiting for something like that. Hey, and listen, congratulations to you. I listened to your channel. What is it? The Bitcoin SV channel, where you guys did a really good show on anxiety and depression. I think it was yesterday.
That's right. Yeah,
it's a good show. That's why I was late, actually. I was listening to that, and the time got away on me, and was set to tie time, as I told you.
I just realized I was meant to be on that, and I totally forgot about it. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. We need to have a chat, Brendan. One day we'll do our own show.
Yeah, we will. That'd be good.
Really good. Hey, so guys, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Brendan, but part of the reason I wanted to get you guys on is a little bit of education on my part. I'm working on a series. I've finished episode 1. It's really starting right from the absolute basics, and with my background in sort of media production. I'm trying to create some content that will appeal to people that we haven't managed to bring into the crypto space at all. Content that's appealing with some entertainment value outside of being too technical, etc. Episode 1 is done. Episode 2, what I'm gonna and 2 and 3, I'll be delving a bit deeper into BTC, BCH, and BSV. So as part of really getting up to speed about how I should be conveying a message to someone that knows nothing about Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, I really wanted to have a bit of a chat to sort of kick this off with you guys about what efforts are happening within BSV to bring new people into the space. Where are you guys at? Are you trying to attract those sort of people at the moment, or is it more about sort of bringing developers in? So maybe if you guys could sort of talk quite basically about how you think someone that doesn't know anything about BSV or Bitcoin in general, blockchain in general, what would you like me to see be getting out to people?
So I actually am of the opinion that the word blockchain and the word crypto are actually completely just red herrings. You shouldn't even use those when you're talking about this technology.
Yep.
What Bitcoin is an open public ledger, and that means that it's basically a huge book, and anybody can write anything onto that book that they like at any time. And that is the goal of the project. Now, there's a native unit of account that the book also supports. And so you can assign, little pieces of money to people using the book. But blockchain is just the format that the book uses to achieve the decentralized network structure. And I even don't like that word decentralized, but sort of that the leaderless, fault-tolerant network that Bitcoin creates is enabled by using blockchain as the format for the ledger. But the real word is the ledger. That's what this is all about. It's about creating a scaled, global data structure that everyone can use basically all day, every day to write all of their stuff. And it's done in such a way that they can always come back and have their stuff and always know that their stuff has not changed. And that is probably, I think, a message that really gets lost when people start talking about, blockchain and crypto, and it's this kind of asset and that kind of blah, blah. Like, I actually don't even really talk about BSV as an asset. It's a technology base, and we can build with it, and we can create some quite incredible things. And so I think the goal is not to try to get people in with promises of gold and riches and whatever else. It's to really show to them that this is a fundamental change in how we manage and share information with each other. It is something where we interact with each other in a provably trustable way, and we're in public, but we can be very private while using the system. And something that's, I think, very simple to understand when you put it in those kinds of terms. And my goal, so one of the things we're doing at the Bitcoin Association is creating sort of this content to teach people about the ledger and about the network that supports the ledger. And we're trying to create that kind of language to help people really understand what it is. And yeah, it's not, blockchain is not the word.
The word blockchain is not even on the white paper.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. And, you hear it around everywhere, and I think there's a huge amount of hype behind it, but very little substance. I think anyone who comes and says blockchain, 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 stop listening, walk away, because they've missed the point. So,
okay. So, I mean, on that note, you know, obviously most people.
Do you mind if I add to that a little bit, Sean?
Yeah, sorry, sir. Get in there.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. So, yeah, me and Brendan, we've got like very sort of similar views. My one's like Brendan is far more technical than I am. I'm more a monetary theory based, because if the theory of money doesn't work, then blockchain and Bitcoin breaks down. And I think this is what most people overlook that Satoshi created. So in order for something to be completely and utterly neutral, it has to be self-sustaining. Because if it has a paymaster or a controller of sorts, it can just simply be shut down by that paymaster or by that controller. So what Satoshi did in order to create a neutral distributed ledger technology, he had to create the perfect money. So Bitcoin is the asset, the perfect money that sustains the blockchain. And the way it's completely neutral is that it uses proof of work. And this is what every single other cryptocurrency completely misses the point of. Every single other type of distributed ledger technology, whether it be pre-mined, again, central point of authority, proof of stake, again, central points of authority, proof of delegated stake, again, I mean, that's even more centralized. IOTA's Tangle, Hydra Hashgraph, they all have central points of authority. What's so amazing about blockchain specifically is that he decentralized the start point as far as possible, because he wrote the paper in English and released it to the Western world, but gave himself a Japanese pseudonym. And so that pseudonym was from a country that was highly developed, technologically advanced, and politically neutral. And hardly anybody who lives in the Western world knows how to speak Japanese. So they were just like, well, we can't really find this guy. Let's just see if the technology works. And then when they started it, because it starts at zero, miners are just simply mining it for zero reward, because there is no price to it. There's no value to it. That's what was so significant about Bitcoin Pizza Day. And then the chain starts. So now no one can start proof of work again, because proof of work starts at zero, which means no one's going to mine a zero value chain, because they're not getting any economic reward for it. There's no point in mining something that has no value. So proof of work can never start again. And this is one of the reasons why Charlie Lee and Charles Hoskinson, who did try and start proof of work chains, exit scammed out as soon as they could, because Charlie Lee was that central point of authority. Charles Hoskinson was that central point of authority. Vitalik Buterin was that central point of authority. They had complete control over it. Vitalik Buterin rolled it back. Charlie Lee knew that, anything I can start, both America and China can start as well. This isn't going anywhere. I'm going to sell the lot, which is what he did. Same with Charles Hoskinson. Only IOHK can mine ADA, Cardano. Whereas Satoshi knew that in order for his creation to have any value whatsoever, he had to spread it out. He's just like, it's got no value for me personally on its own. I have to get this thing valued by getting it distributed. Whereas everyone else, like Charles Hoskinson and Charlie Lee, they took advantage of the speculative value because people didn't understand money. So they were just like, all right, well, what I'll do is I'll create this piece of digital shit, and when the price goes up, which it will do, because there's no way the authorities are going to let Bitcoin just simply take over the world, because there are people who currently control the money supply, and then they're going to do all they can to try and stop it. And I think Satoshi foresaw this, which is why he wrote into the program the ability for Bitcoin to be able to fork. So when BTC was purposely prevented from scaling, it was like, okay, we'll fork it, but the chain continues. Then BCH was taken over by anarchists who were just like, right, we want to use it for criminal activity. Well, criminal activity is a closed market, because you can only buy drugs with it. There's no way global commerce is going to use an anonymous coin, because there's no legal protection in the trade. So that's ridiculous. That's going to zero. And then we've got BSV, and Craig is like, right, you know what? We're not going to try and we're not going to go for adoption. we are going to make people use this chain for the value proposition that it offers. There is going to be massive utility on chain because it saves corporations millions, if not billions of dollars. And then everybody else will follow. That's the end of it.
I think there definitely will be a fairly hardcore anonymous coin out there when the dust settles across everything, without a doubt. There's enough.
There won't be.
Okay.
No, I don't think
there won't be. It's a closed market. It's a closed market.
I actually don't think it's possible to be anonymous. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, true.
Oh,
Yeah.
not something that would be, in widespread use. I just think the tech probably will be there, but a fringe element will want something like that.
Well, yeah, criminals will want it, but it'll have no value.
Bitcoin.
No, of course, well, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily. Well, yeah. I suppose in a way,
understand that, like,
yeah, but it could be comparable to a lot of sort of permission type blockchain.
Put it this way, if you're one of 5,000 people using a Nonicoin to buy and sell drugs, you're going to be much easier to track down than if you're one of 5 billion.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I remember looking at Monero a couple of years ago.
And not just 5 billion people, but 5 billion people and another 10 billion automated processes generating, petabytes of data every day, basically.
Yeah.
It's going to be much easier to be private. And
so I didn't really intend to get onto this subject, but while we're here, should we have a quick chat on, especially in terms of someone really new to the space? Because one thing I've noticed recently, and I think you trolled me on this one, Satoshi, a couple of days ago. I interviewed McAfee, and he was having a bit of a swing at Bitcoin being an ancient technology, and I asked him, well, what do you rate? And his answer was Monero. There was another guy there from a privacy coin called Masari. But, and then I've heard guys like Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, sort of turning on Bitcoin and saying Monero was really what people thought they were getting with Bitcoin. So maybe if you guys could sort of really, in very basic terms, explain to people what level of privacy there is within Bitcoin. And obviously privacy and anonymity are two very different things, but very, very central to what we've all got here. So maybe if you guys want to talk a wee bit on that topic in basic terms.
Right. Can I go first quickly, Brendan?
Shoot.
Yeah, okay. So privacy is what you and your partner have in the bedroom between the two of you. That is privacy. You can identify each other, you two can do what you want, you two can trade, but if you start being nasty to one another, you can be reported because you can identify each other. That's privacy. Anonymity is when you are completely on your own. Nobody can identify you whatsoever. That's why, criminals wear balaclavas and dress up and, hide their identity when they try and rob people because they want anonymity. That's the difference. Privacy is you trading with someone else, but, that someone else can identify you. Anonymity, literally no one can, which is why anonymous coins have no credibility as a medium of exchange because no commerce will use them because there is no legal protection in the trade. Therefore, the market will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And as Brendan just said, if you're using Monero or Bitcoin Cash, the fact that you've got it on your phone is effectively outing yourself as a criminal. It's ridiculous.
Are you wearing a balaclava right now, Satoshi?
No, I'm pseudo-anonymous. I met Brendan in Toronto, even though he didn't recognize me. It was quite funny. Should have seen the look on his face. He was like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, this guy came and grabbed me by the shoulder. Brendan, hey, man. And I'm like, who the bloody hell is this guy?
Does he look how you thought he would?
To be honest, I'd never really thought about it. But yeah, he kind of looks how his voice sounds. So imagine a face with that voice and you're pretty...
I know how he looks. I figured it
out. What I would have to say about anonymity versus privacy kind of echoes what Satoshi was saying, is that you know, when you engage in business with somebody, it's you and that person standing opposite each other, and you're exchanging information, and you're always able to go back to that information and say, hey, here's the information that you provided me. Or if that person rips you off, you're able to go back to somebody else when you have legal recourse and say, here's that information that that person provided me.
Yeah.
When you're trying to be anonymous, none of that actually works, because even if you're standing in front of somebody and a transaction lands in your wallet, you don't actually know if it was from them. Like, what happens if two transactions arrive in your wallet that both look almost the same? You would never be able to tell where it came from. And that's just, that as a system simply doesn't work for much of what we are building on Bitcoin. You know, yeah, sure, fine if you want to sell drugs and whatever, but if you actually want to do anything that's useful, it's not going to work. And I mean, so when we say this is an open ledger, that means it's a book where people are going to be using their identities and their status to write information, because it's not that the information that you write on the ledger is true or false, right? Like nobody can say, oh, well, that information is true because it's on the ledger. The only thing that they can say is that is the information that was written on the ledger. And so it is your reputation as the author of that data that people are going to look at and say, well, I believe that information. But in an anonymous system, you can't ever have a reputation, because nobody can ever link your transactions to you. And so as a practicality for business, I think it's just not there. There's no use for it. It doesn't.
Yeah, true. But I mean, just very quickly on this. I mean, I read a really good article by the leader of your clan, Dr. Craig Wright, on assassination markets a couple of days ago, covering these issues. Really good article, actually. Go and check it out. But just on the privacy front, I think it's also important to point out. You know, one of the guys I spoke to who works on a privacy coin, I think there are like two guys. You know, it's sort of, in some ways, you know, I heard Kelvin Eyre talking writing a couple of days ago about a lot of these projects he feels or developers will ultimately come over to SV. And, you know, I think a lot of these devs out there working on various projects, I think it's wrong to assume they're, you know, because someone's working on development in the privacy space on a coin, that it's a criminal coin.
Yeah, but do you mean privacy or anonymity?
Well, they're called privacy coins, so privacy.
Well, that's wrong. They're anonymous coins.
No, well, no.
There's a big difference between anonymous and private. Like, if it's in, check this out. I mean, this, just going back to what Brendan just said, this is how ridiculous an anonymous coin is. If a coin is anonymous, nobody can tell what is going on at all. So therefore, how do you not know that the person who created that coin is just simply creating more for themselves? Because I'm telling you, that's what criminals will do. It has no credibility whatsoever. They would just be inflating the supply and nobody would know. It's ridiculous.
Well, that potentially can happen, I believe, with, oh God, what's the name of it?
Every other shit coin.
Okay.
I mean, what do you got? You got your Monero, you got Zcash.
Zcash is the one where the guys behind that effectively could just keep printing it.
What did Zuku? Because the value of the coin crashed, and he wasn't going to be getting his $4 million or whatever he gets paid every year.
Yeah.
They broke the contract and rewrote it so that he still gets paid. So now they're inflating their coin supply so that he can get paid. I mean. That to me is criminal. You've just ripped off every single person who's ever touched Zcash.
Isn't there a lot of traditional financial institutions invested in Zcash though? I think JP Morgan. I mean, there's some fairly significant sort of
JP Morgan invests in some pretty stupid stuff.
I should have got to be careful here.
JP Morgan. I mean, literally, I'll tell you, like, these organizations that have no clue about what money really is. The Chinese government have no clue what money really is. JP Morgan have no clue what money really is. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered wasting their time with JP Morgan coin. Facebook has no clue what money is, or else they wouldn't have wasted their time with Libra coin. They have no clue. Absolutely ridiculous.
So it's these traders, they look at a bunch of graphs and they determine, oh, wow, there's value in the blockchain space. And they just throw money into it. And they really don't have any clue what they're doing. They don't actually read or try to understand how this functions. Because if they did, they'd be where we are.
Right. So guys, just coming back to content for newbies. So I'll ask a few sort of dumb questions. I kind of know.
I believe there's no such thing as a dumb question, but shoot.
Good answer.
I mean, I've heard plenty of dumb questions from BTCers.
So obviously how will SV be used as a currency when with obviously significant fluctuations in the value of the thing? How's that problem solved?
Well, I think if you don't mind me going here, Satoshi.
Go for it.
One of the things that will happen early on is not so much that people will be using the actual BSV unit of account as a widely spread unit of exchange. I think BSV for the first while will predominantly be used as something that you purchase to access the ledger. And what will happen is that miners will fix access to the ledger at a price in fiat. Right. And so you'll be able to go and buy, $100 of BSV, and that'll give you a certain amount of will give you whatever this many gigabytes of data on the ledger, and that's so enterprise will use that BSV to buy that access. But what will also happen is that we will see actual currency, so national fiat currencies being tokenized and issued on the network. And I'm not talking about a stable coin here because let's be upfront, a stable coin is not a currency. It's a token that is held to the value of a national currency with blue tack. And, sometimes the blue tack falls off and the value of the stable coin goes down because there's nothing holding them there. And sometimes they allege that they have actual money in a bank account, but that's never, we never really see the evidence of that. What I'm talking about is are tokens being exchanged on the Bitcoin SV network that have been issued by a central bank entity as that national fiat currency. So you would get the Australian dollar being issued on the BSV ledger and being given the properties of Bitcoin. So instant transactions, micro transactions, multiple output transactions. So the ability to go into a store, pay the rent, the tax, the staff, everybody all at once in a single transaction, like do all these cool things. But using your local currency. And I think that is going to be one of the big growth areas because, once you see what Bitcoin can do and realize that, hey, we can take all of these amazing things and have that with our dollar, well, that's going to be what people will want upfront. And it won't be, it could be several years before the price of BSV stabilizes enough that people actually want to start accepting it for goods and services. Now, I don't blame people for going, actually, this is completely unpalatable for me as a business owner. We tried it at Fire and we got burnt pretty badly. And, and we're huge BSVers. And when we took it for a service and then when we went to pay things, we were like, crap, we've really made a mistake here. So, I think much more it's going to be actually that we'll see tokenized national currency on the BSV network before anything else.
Oh boy, so you just made it really difficult for me to try and explain this to newbies in my series.
No, it's not difficult to explain at all. All you have to say is that this is the same as your normal money, except it's now much faster, much cheaper, and much more fluid, and you can do much more with it. But it's just those same dollars.
Sure, but
And
that's sort of we're looking a few years down the track for that use case, right?
I wouldn't say so. I would think we might start seeing that happen sooner than you might think. Like,
Well, yeah, I'll give this a quick go then. So in terms of explaining it to newbies, there are two things you've got to look at. So one, you need to explain to them that every time they upload data to what they think is the internet, what they're actually doing is uploading their data to a private corporate server. So you upload, you may have a Twitter on profile. It's your profile. You don't own that information. Twitter does. Same with Facebook. You may have a profile. You do not own that data. Same with YouTube. You might have a profile. You do not own that data. You know, businesses, there is no platform for anyone to upload anything onto, in quote, the internet, because the internet is a bunch of servers owned by corporations, you know, different servers. The blockchain is the first time there is an immutable source of neutral data available to absolutely everyone. And corporations are absolutely paranoid about keeping their data safe, which is why they store it in multiple locations. They spend millions on cybersecurity. You know, there's like updates, there's maintenance, you know, there's so many things. And now you can get rid of all of that cost. You do not need any of that. You just simply upload your data onto the blockchain. And to prove that data is yours, obviously, you know, that's why a micropayment is needed, because miners are going to process that process for you. And they get paid in Bitcoin to do that. So there's two things. Businesses are going to be buying BSV in order to save them huge amounts of money on data storage and to keep their data safe and stored. And then secondly, because it's fixed in supply, the value is going to be increasing. So therefore, it's an asset that you can use as a medium of exchange as in trade. So you've got two things. They're going to be buying it to save themselves money, and they're going to be buying it because it's actually increasing in value as well. It's the most purest form of money the world has ever seen, ever.
Okay, so a couple more silly questions. Fixed supply, 21 million. Why is there a slight difference when you look at the amount of coins for BTC, BSV, and BCH? Shouldn't it be exactly?
That's a pretty simple one. Simply because the coins are issued as the blocks are created, and as the networks have split from each other, some are further ahead in the block count, and more coins have been issued onto those networks.
Okay.
And that's basically it. And well, there is an issue if you are looking at, I think the website is coinmarketcap.com. They have not updated the supply of BSV in quite a long time. So the number they have up there is quite incorrect. And we've been telling them about it, but they haven't fixed it yet. So
that's pretty bad.
Actually, I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Who cares if we're being compared against a bunch of crap? Like,
yeah. Honestly, like I honestly think that when the dam bursts or the wall comes down or whatever metaphor you want to use, it's going to come down so fast. And I honestly think all these people holding shitcoins, I'm really worried about them. Yeah, but I mean, this is why I'm out there telling people, look, this is what is going to happen. It is inevitable. You know, and
so guys,
as long as I've tried, that's it.
Guys, just I've I had a cursory glance. I know the Maxwell, what's his name?
Greg Maxwell.
Having a bit of a dig a week or two ago. Coming up to, so what's the deal here? Because it's a couple of questions. People who are new to the space, I mean, there are a lot actually who have had Bitcoin, then didn't even know that they could get Bitcoin Cash, and then obviously after the fork with SV, they don't know how to claim. I know my brother, for example, went to try and get some SV and was told by the exchange, no, sorry, that's no longer possible. But he held Bitcoin Cash at the time of the fork. What advice would you give to people that may not have claimed their SV, and is there anything to be especially aware of coming up to Genesis?
Well, so very clearly, let me just state this very clearly, that there will not be two coins available after Genesis. There will just be the same BSV. The whole idea of the Genesis fork is to create a much more stable situation where we can go forward without ever needing to change anything. Yep. And that's the whole point of removing all the limits. Like all of the arguments, the argy-bargy, this is all because someone wants to set this limit or that limit or change this or do that. And it just destroys the capability of developers to actually build on the protocol.
Oh, hey, Brendan, I don't think I asked that question very well. Really, what I was getting at there is for people that maybe aren't so technical, that might be missing out on the fact that they actually are entitled to some BSV.
Right. Okay. So this is for people who had BCH when
correct.
BSV split,
yep.
who had it on an exchange.
Yep.
Well, it's really, so those exchanges would have the BSV that was created at the time of the fork.
Yeah.
And, in my mind, that means that it really does belong to the people who held the BCH.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of exchanges held on to it,
yeah.
Or liquidated it without consulting their customers. And I would say that there is probably almost certainly a legal leg to stand on.
I would think so as well.
Say that, hey, you guys owe me this much BSV and pay up, please.
Yeah.
Because
I agree. My brother was told, sorry, fella, too late.
Well, I think that's complete crap and very irresponsible behavior from those exchanges.
Yeah.
And I would definitely be looking at options.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I mean, this is and also a lesson learned, not your keys, not your coins. If you are stupid enough to give your money or your cryptocurrency, hand it over and place it on an exchange, that's like handing your data over to Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. They have got your coins.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, the reality is, I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but I think most people have their coins on exchanges.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
I think
so
you're right.
They need to get an education. Bitcoin is a medium of exchange. It's not meant to be, a shit coin that you just simply pump and dump and sell and buy and all this kind. It's meant to be used for global commerce. All these BTCers do is just simply use it for a pump and dump on the exchanges. So it's going to be a real lesson learned to them. If you hand your Bitcoin over to someone like this exchange and they're just, oh, right, well, you're meant to get BSV with this, but we're keeping that, by the way, and you're not getting it. They're unregulated. There is nothing they can do. And the law takes a long time to catch up. So the exchanges might be shut down and long gone.
Okay.
Yeah. I unfortunately, for the people who did not get their BSV, it's probably looking pretty unlikely that they ever will. And as much as that makes me sad, I really, other than trying to pursue legal action,
okay.
I don't think there's much that you can do, because when you send your coins to an exchange, what you're effectively doing is putting it in their pot. And when the network split, they had two pots, and they've just said, well, this is ours. Thanks very much.
Brendan,
thank you very much.
Tell us some two parts to this. Tell us a wee bit about the Bitcoin Association and what you guys do, and what's the thinking within the Bitcoin Association around educating people that are new to the space, because if we're all honest here, this is for the majority of people in this space, it is all about number go up. That's the reality. So what is the position of the Bitcoin? What do you guys do? And what is the thinking about attracting people to SV? What's the message for your average public there?
Well, if you're here for number go up, piss off, basically, where I'm not really interested in entertaining speculation.
Yeah.
You know, you can play the markets, but the Bitcoin Association isn't going to be giving you any advice on how to do that or anything. Like, we're here. So the Bitcoin Association is an advocacy organization, and our target is really at a much higher level. So we seek to engage at an enterprise and government level to really try to instruct people about the ledger and how it works and how to use it, and to try to applications on board by selling them the utility of the system,
Right.
rather than trying to get them interested in it because, hey, number go up. Because, you know, that's nobody who's actually seriously going to spend 10, 20, $50 million, which you need to spend to build like a major project, is going to do that on the basis of number go up.
Sure.
And I think that's the hardest thing that the rest of the crypto industry has in front of it, is that their entire value proposition is number go up. And they're hoping that people are going to come and dump truckloads of money on their front lawns because of number go up, and that magically stuff will get built because of that, and it's just not going to happen.
So would it be fair to say then the message to a newbie is BTC is a speculative tool for if you're in a developed country. It is maybe a store of value, whereas BSV
BTC is a hot potato. Like, don't be holding it when it all falls apart. Like, and it's not far off that this whole thing just ties itself up in a knot that can't be undone. And you know, when you know, all we will be able to say is, hey guys, we've been telling you this for a long time now, and it's really unfortunate. But
what are the main reasons you guys think that that BTC is just doomed? What's the rationale?
Well, so
not thinking, it's
because it has limited itself to a 1 megabyte block size. They have completely cut the legs out from the capacity of the network to sustain any kind of commerce. Like, you can't even build a supermarket on 7 transactions a second.
Right.
Like
could it be digital gold? Could it?
No. Where's the value? There's no value in it.
Yeah.
BSV does every single thing that BTC does and 1,000 times more. So you tell me where the value is. Is there any value in a coin that does nothing, is basically has set itself up for a massive implosion?
But what about if they were actually organized and they had a coordinated marketing campaign?
No, they are so dead and they don't know it.
Right.
Like, UASF actually locked the stupid in. They will never be able to go beyond 1 megabyte. The miners have basically said, okay, you guys are trying small blocks, and we're going to show you that this doesn't work by locking you into that forever.
Yeah,
and
I don't disagree with that. I mean, obviously, I launched a media brand called Hard Forking. I thought it was fantastic that the technology allowed for people to do that and follow what they thought should be happening, which is exactly what you guys have done. But you know, sort of coming back to that though, why couldn't BTC end up? You know, I heard Calvin say, okay, there is no battle between BTC and BSV. BSV is a utility.
No, the battle's over. Like, BSV has effortlessly
they're
stepped over BTC. Like, these guys, so they think. So here's where the difference is between number go up and technical utility. Like, number go up says, no, we kept the BTC ticker. We have the highest price. We're on the most exchanges. Well, none of those things actually mean anything in the context of implementing a global cash network for all of our money to work upon.
Yeah,
like,
I agree. But could it be digital gold to see?
No.
Yeah, boys. Just quickly, I need to shoot
They're
off in a
selling
minute.
lead and calling
I've just
gold.
Yeah, I've just got to shoot off, boys. So I'll just put my last 2 pence in here quickly. I've got a meeting in 15 minutes. I need to get to. Let's just put this store of value, medium of exchange thing to bed, right? If something has a value, any value whatsoever, it can be used in an exchange for something of a similar value. So it therefore has to be a medium of exchange first before it has any value. I cannot go into a supermarket and say, oh yeah, by the way, I've got a load of gold, but it's just, it's in the ground. You just got to go down that gold mine and get it out of the rock yourself. They're like, no, not having it. So gold in the rock has no value because I can't do anything with it. I have to extract that gold out and turn it into a medium of exchange before it has any value. So it is medium of exchange first. And that's what these douchebags in BTC have no clue about. It is medium of exchange first because it has a value, and then it's store of value afterwards. That's it. And then in terms of getting people interested in BSV, when you were saying, oh, what about newbies? So as Brendan was alluding to, it's corporates that are going to be all over this, first of all, because corporations are going to be using it because they're going to be saving millions, if not billions, on their data storage costs and everything else. All the amazing things that are going to be built on the BSV blockchain are for corporations. And then when corporations start using it, the governments will be very reluctant to shut it down because corporations love two things: saving money and making money. And Bitcoin SV does both of them. So if a government comes along and says, well, oh, by the way, we don't like you using that, corporations are going to be like, hold on a minute, you what? You know, this is streamlining our systems. You know, we are making huge profits on this technology because it's that good. And corporations employ the population. So if the government start pissing off corporations, you know, well, basically they won't, because it's the corporations that are their bread and butter that basically keep, order within society, because they give people jobs, they allow people to buy food and have a roof over their head and stuff like that. Okay, so literally corporations are going to be on this, and I think this is going to be massive because you've got 4th of February Genesis locking down the protocol, so they can have confidence in the fact that nobody can change it. And then Craig is going to prove himself in court to give him credibility as well, which is a double whammy. You know, and then you've got the block reward halving after that, where BTC is going to be in a whole world of shit.
So, hey, just before you whip off, and this is an amazing, stirring speech. I was going to stand up and clap there at one point, Satoshi. Very good. What? This is a court case you're talking about. Is that the current one with Kleinman, or has he got another one with Peter McCormick?
There's Peter McCormick, and there's the Ira Kleinman.
I'm very familiar with the Ira Kleinman one. I follow that closely. I actually interviewed Craig about it, but what's going on with Peter McCormick's case? That seems to be forever.
Boys, I've got to shoot off now. Brendan, do you want to just carry on? This has been great. I wish we could do this again, actually, but it's
happy to jump on any time with you, Satoshi. I'm going to find a hardcore BTC maximalist and get the two of you going at each other. That would be fantastic.
More than happy to. More than happy to. I will shut him down in 2 minutes.
I'll arrange that. I know a couple. They refused to invite me to a meeting last week, so I speak to other projects, which I find hilarious. But yeah, that's what I can do.
All right.
Hey, thanks.
Cheers, guys. I need to shoot.
Late.
See you later, mate.
All right. Catch you later. All right.
Well, hear from you soon. Can't see you. Oh, he's an interesting character. So, I mean, we probably don't want to get too bogged down what I consider a rather.
Well, if I could, I would just like to go back to store of value for a couple of minutes, because one of the things I'd like to cover is the actual value, not just of the coin itself. Because I actually think that's kind of inconsequential here. That's not the real deal. Once we actually start to see governments and companies tokenizing the ownership rights to land, to goods and services, to shares and equity in companies, what you'll actually see is that the amount of value that is being managed on the BSV network will actually far exceed the value of the BSV money supply itself. So the BSV is there just to be cash, right? It's not going to take over everything in value. You know, like I love the guys who go, well, here's the M1, M2, M3 money supplies, and it's this many gigatrillions of dollars, and it's going to take over all of that. And it's not. Like it's just, it's a cash system. It's the money that moves fast and makes everything, it greases the wheels of everything. But you're also going to see, like, national currencies, shares, bonds, all these kinds of things being tokenized and put onto the network. And so the value of those tokens, that's going to eclipse the value of BSV several times over. And so that's then, like, so what is a store of value in that context? Like, you know, BTC, they're like, oh, well, you can get some, you know, these precious Satoshis and put them in a key and bury it in your backyard. And it's like gold that you hold in a safe. But it's not. It's actually kind of worthless if you're trying to do that. Like, it's not doing anything.
So I got a question from a couple of newbies the other day that were concerned about what they were talking about BTC, the fact that I think there's only about 2,000 wallets with any sort of significant, significant amount of BTC in, and, you know, in other words, the distribution of wealth, so to speak, is worse than the traditional economy in BTC. How would you? I'm assuming it's a similar scenario with BSV, or is it?
Well, yeah, it's a similar scenario, and it's actually worse than they think, because those websites can only go and look at single addresses and say, well, there's this much money in that address. But if you've got a wallet, so I'm actually there, like I've got a ledger, this little device can control hundreds of wallets. Yeah. So if I was a huge holder of BTC, I can just split it up into lots of tiny little amounts and spread it all over the place. And you would never know, because it's private, you see. You would never know that was all mine. And it wouldn't be until I started spending it all over the place and even then, like, how would you know that it was me? So yes,
the distribution. Sorry? Is it a similar scenario with BSV? The distribution.
It is a similar scenario. There are a few very big holders, and so obviously, there's Craig, who has recently, or will soon, one of those two, regain the rights to a significant amount of BTC that he mined very shortly after he created the network. And I've heard rumors of a few other people who hold several tens or even hundreds of thousands of coins, which is I think maybe a problem. Until this thing becomes a large part of the global cash economy, I really don't think it's that consequential.
Yeah.
It would only be if all of a sudden in 50 years, when this is the cash supply, somebody just turned up and said, oh, I've got 1 million coins. And that would be quite a shock, I think, if that, so if they started to do things with that. But that's not something I'm focused on worrying about.
So, Brendan, tell me, obviously, I understand, I've been following SV since its inception. I've got a pretty good grasp of the fact that, it's very, very, very much, enterprise grade. For individuals, where do you see the use case for someone?
Look, so
obviously, moving down the line, the use case will be there as enterprise applications come onto the chain. But right now, for someone like myself, why would I get into SV?
Well, I think there are some very cool applications that are coming out now on BSV. So you're a content creator. I don't know how you monetize this content, but already on BSV, we have a website called Streamanity. You can upload these videos onto that website and actually put them behind a paywall, and people can pay you per second to watch your content. We have websites like Twitch and yours.org where you can put content up and you can actually be earning money.
How are they going? Are they getting some traction, those sites? I signed up for Twitch. Clearly it was fairly early days. Streamanity I've had a look at. Obviously, as part of my series, I want to go out and really find use cases.
Sure.
So I'm going to be doing that over the next couple of months and sort of reporting back. I think it's important to explain to people, where we're at and the development, regardless of the platform. I mean, where do you think we're at the moment?
Look, at the moment, I think we're, if you think of it as a big staircase, our foot's about an inch off the ground at the very bottom of the staircase. Like we're not even like,
right.
And, but people are still making money. So I've got, I think, 4 videos up on Streamanity, and they have collectively earned me about $200.
Oh, really?
Which is not, it doesn't pay my mortgage for a week, but it certainly is not a kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
And it's a signal to me that there's actually something there. And,
absolutely, correct. If you've made $1, then there might be something there.
Yeah, and there are people who've made significantly more than that. I've seen not so much on Streamanity, but certainly on yours.org in the early days of that site, there were people who made several thousands of dollars for posts or for articles that they wrote. And I think, in terms of, so, I mean, this probably, and again, this comes back to, how to bring in the newbie who just wants to buy the coin. Well, there's not really a whole lot out there. You can't go and spend it in a whole lot of places. I mean, there are shops you can buy hats and shirts and supplements and all kinds of different stuff where people have set up websites that have BSV on their shopping front end, but application wise, it's a lot of it is still getting built. And I think, interestingly, most of the things that are getting built, so I'm looking at sites like Uptime SV, like Coda, like BitQ&A, they're all about people monetizing what they do. So I'm not sure if you've looked into any of those. Uptime SV actually takes the whole business of monitoring websites for uptime, and so this is quite a huge industry, and it's run by some a very small number of large players. And what they do is they have servers in various locations all around the world, and every now and then they'll ping your website, and if they can't reach it, they'll send you a message that says, hey, we think your website's down, and then you can go and fix it. What Uptime SV does is kind of completely upends that whole model and says, well, instead of having half a dozen discrete servers all around the world, we'll actually farm the work of pinging those websites out to people who have mobile devices. So you'll download the Uptime SV app and say, I want to earn some money, and put it on a table, and your phone will just sit there, and Uptime will say, hey, ping this website and we'll pay you 1 cent. You ping the website and say, I got the website, and they'll give you 1 cent. And so anybody with a mobile device will now be able to earn BSV by sharing their bandwidth with that application.
Okay. Look, you got a little annoyed before when we were talking about the number go up thing, and at how you would what maybe the Bitcoin Association do and so forth. I mean, I got to admit, I consider myself an independent journalist. I've only covered Bitcoin. I was very excited when SV happened. It's just given me a whole new array of things to learn, and been really impressed with the people and projects. But at the same time, I've introduced enterprises to SV. I've been involved in the calls with the N-Chain guys, so I have a really good appreciation of what's going on there. But I get asked by a multitude of people, should I be investing in SV? And no matter what way we want to look at it, there's still the biggest percentage of people, this is what these crypto is to them. Is there anything you say you were a little annoyed by that? Why? I mean, why was there an issue with someone sort of with me saying to somebody, well, look, I think the value of this thing is going to go up significantly. I certainly, or was it more me sort of talking about what the Bitcoin Association do?
I think so. Yeah, the Bitcoin Association isn't here to help people searching for advice on which crypto coin is going to take them to the moon if they buy a ticket. But if you want my opinion, I flat out don't see any other crypto network that has anything like the potential of BSV. I actually think BSV is probably one of the only coins in that entire market that has a fair valuation. I actually think the price is about right for today.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we don't really have scenarios with coins where the price has anything to do with tech.
No, if you were evaluating BTC on its tech, I would actually say it's worth about 10 cents.
Really? Because that would value the usage of the blockchain and its security at 10 cents.
No. So, okay, all that's happening is that people keep piling money into it, and the miners are basically taking that money from those people. And as soon as people stop piling money into it, the miners will go away. And it's not because the people necessarily understand Bitcoin. It's just that they see this thing and people have made tons of money on it and it's appreciated so many million% over 10 years. And you've got Pomp and his friends out there, spruiking it at every opportunity. None of them actually understand what this is all about and what the mission of the project was in the first place, which was to create this global ledger that I was talking about at the beginning, where it's a system that is free for anybody to use. And let's be real, BTC is not free for anybody to use. There is a price floor under which you are out of the network. And on any given day, that floor can go up as high as like 30, 50. I've even seen it as high as, $150 at the worst times of congestion. And if you want to build any kind of application or economy, you cannot have a money system where all of a sudden 95% of the users are locked out and effectively can't actually perform any transactions. But that's exactly what happened on BTC. And you know what they've changed to fix that, to stop that from happening? Nothing. They haven't done a fucking thing. So where's the value?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's strange. I got into Bitcoin in 2016. I used it all the time, especially in 2017.
And back then it was usable.
Yeah, there was a community office. We all held it. We all, amongst each other's businesses. Of course, the thing was jumping around massively in price, but I guess the fact that we were an internal, community sharing similar amounts of it, that didn't matter too much to us. And then obviously, we've had these forks to give us BCH and BSV. But I still, what surprised me with the BTC crowd is the lack, if you to make that digital gold play. I can't believe that the complete lack of marketing, because ultimately a currency is just, or something of value, is everyone agreeing it's got that value. I totally understand with BSV, this is a very different scenario. You're a utility. And it's an exciting project. You're certainly the project I follow the most closely. There's a hell of a lot to learn, and I've got really. I probably need to talk to you a bit more actually over the coming weeks, just to really understand
Sure.
how to present BSV to these newbies.
And remember, while you're researching what BSV does, everything that BSV does was something that BTC could have been able to do, except that these guys basically destroyed the system and brainwashed everyone to believe that it was good for Bitcoin. So
when did you first get into the space?
So I'm probably a little bit of a latecomer. I actually bought BTC about 4 days after the BCH hard fork.
Oh,
and I kind of just jumped in. I bought some BTC, some Ethereum, and some
August 2017.
Yeah, and so prior to that, I was an engineer. I worked in I was doing energy stuff. I was working in batteries, and really had not looked at Bitcoin or blockchain at all. And so I just thought I just kept, what sucked me in, interestingly, was number go up. So I got sucked in by number go up, and I thought, I got it. There's something here. I need to look at this, and I'm not one to kind of come in and spend 6 months researching and then take a little step. One of my grandmothers had passed away, and I'd inherited some money from that, and I went, okay, well, I'm just going to take that and let's go. And I bought BTC, and then I started doing research, and I realized quite quickly that there was a huge civil war happening, and B, that BTC was not what it was being sold as. So one of the first things I did when I got my BTC was, hey, yeah, I'm going to go out and spend some of my new digital money. And I went and bought, actually I've got some of these things. I bought Open Dimes from the Open Dime website. And I think I spent $19 and was shocked to discover that there was a $6 network fee on top of my $19 purchase. And I remember at the time being extremely confused, as what I had read about Bitcoin was that it was meant to be fast and extremely cheap and all of these sorts of things. And kind of that led me down the rabbit hole of BCH, BSV. And as soon as I learned about the block size debate, it was game over. Like this is like so obvious. How could you think that keeping in this day and age where I can buy this device that has like 500 gigabytes of space for like $1,000, how could you think that 1 megabyte blocks are going to build a global financial system? And banks who buy into that should be laughed at and kicked out the door. Like, really, are they like, go into any enterprise server room and there's enough storage to house a million years of the BTC ledger? It's crazy.
Look, it's a shame. I mean, there's so much talent, across these different projects. I'm obviously having a brand called Hard Forking. I really followed that whole block size debate closely, and the way I sort of look at it is it's just I think with Segwit, that particular crew really thought it was a temporary fix that would keep Bitcoin effectively competitive against Ethereum, which was
Segwit was a Trojan horse. It actually destroys the chain of ownership rights, and I believe it's not a scaling solution. It actually makes the blocks bigger. It doesn't do what they say. It doesn't make
block weight.
It actually puts more data into the block for the same number of transactions, and they hide that by using block weight. And it's very dishonest the way it was sold to people, but people don't understand. Like they don't research. They don't look at how these transactions are built and how they go into the block and see that, oh, actually we're being duped. This is not what they're telling us it is at all. And instead they jump on the name calling and the vitriol and think that, oh, well, we can be the biggest bullies in the room and that will save us. That will drive value into our project. And it's just silly.
So most people don't understand what SegWit is. It's a thing from the past, and what the the Satoshi brought it up. So we'll touch on it again. Do you know what is going on with Craig and this Peter McCormack trial? Is that actually going to happen, or?
Oh, yeah, I believe it is happening. And so basically, Peter McCormack was making a business for himself by going onto YouTube and onto the internet.
It was
and slandering Craig and saying he's a fraud and all kinds. And he's
it worked. He's making money.
So Craig said, "Hey, please stop." And Peter McCormack basically doubled down and said, "Come and stop me. You're a fraud. You're not Satoshi." And so Craig said, "Hey, here's a piece of paper that says you have to stop. And if you stop now, there'll be no further action." And Peter McCormack tripled down and went, "Nah, F you, like, you're not Satoshi. Go get stuffed. You're a fraud, blah, blah, blah." And so Craig went, "All right, well, let's go." And now there's a proper lawsuit, which I believe is for libel. Which they take extremely seriously in the UK. If he loses, he's going to be going to jail, and he will be. I believe he is already basically bankrupt, but he will be bankrupt and in prison. And the only people he's.
I think the number one cryptocurrency are paying his legal fees in Tether.
Well, good luck with that. Like, honestly, it's such a.
I find that laughable. I mean, I followed, I wrote a number of articles on it. Sort of, the biggest, when there was one Bitcoin, the biggest threat to Bitcoin was the collapse of Tether, and most people in the space hated Tether. So it's quite comical that the people behind Tether are financing it.
It's when you go back through the history, there's all these little projects that come up like Litecoin and Tether. And at the beginning, everyone's like, "Oh, it's a fraud. It's a joke." And then, but after a couple of years, you end up with, Litecoin is silver to Bitcoin's gold. And, Tether's, it's so good. It gives us liquidity and all this kind of BS. Tether's a massive time bomb. I'm actually glad that they delisted BSV from all of the exchanges where they use Tether the way they do, because it protects us from this impending. Like, it's hard to see how far away it is.
But
this is a wrecking ball that's going to just swing through. What's that?
I said, the amount of times I thought, oh God, this is all over. I thought crypto was going to be wiped off the map a couple of times with a Tether implosion. But now it just, when you hear something disastrous about Tether, everyone seems to roll their shoulders and another $1 billion appears, and on we go. It's insane. Yeah. And, does it need to be backed? Probably not.
Well, so this is where we go back to what I was saying before about stable coins versus real money.
Yeah.
The value of Tether is held up with sticky tape.
Yeah.
And when the sticky tape comes off, what does it do? It's just.
I think the bizarre thing is the sticky tapes come off massively a couple of times, and it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, but they seem to be able to always pull the value back. And I think that, there's a few times where it's actually dropped down to, I think, 94 cents, I think is the worst I've seen it go.
Yeah.
Or maybe it even went down to 91.
Yeah.
For something that's meant to be worth $1, that's a pretty big hit.
Hey, I'm having a chat. As I mentioned, I'm making this series. I've been only ever been in Bitcoin from the get-go. So I'm sort of going on a bit of a journey at the moment, trying to learn as much about, the other projects out there. And I've sort of looked back and thought, okay, who have been some of the bigger ones, more credible ones, who are interesting people to talk to. I've actually got a chat next week with Power Ledger, which I believe is an Australian outfit. What can you tell me about them, and what are your thoughts on permission blockchains in general?
So it's actually really funny. Before I jumped on this call, I was I'm seeing my accountant tomorrow, and I was going through all of my trades to report it. And I was trying to find the exchange where I sold Power Ledger, and I can't find it anywhere. But I think I've just found it in the last second before I jumped on the call. But yeah, Power Ledger. Look, unfortunately for them, I actually don't think there's anything in private blockchain. I think it's actually a massive red herring. Like, it's just you're better off to use a traditional database. There's nothing that a blockchain does in a private scenario such as they want to use it that you can't do. Sorry?
I've always said that as well, but I had a buddy of mine's, the head of compliance at a huge global bank, and I ran that sort of statement by him, and he said, no, it's actually not true. So the use of that blockchain tech in many scenarios is what, from a compliance point of view, is what they're really enforcing now.
What does a blockchain do that somehow improves their compliance? Like,
look,
I actually think that's a complete non-argument he's made. Like, you can do everything that you can do in a blockchain without the need to have a chain of blocks. You don't need that.
Yeah, look, I probably, as I say, I'm sort of going off, just beginning this journey now to understand it a wee bit better. So it's not a topic I can talk to. Being the guy,
they would be much better off looking at how to do what they want to do privately using the public ledger. And because as soon as you do something on a private blockchain, and you're trying to do information exchange between two places, you are again stuck with all of the same security issues that you have with traditional computer databases. You've got to have
Brendan, I agree with you. And for that reason, the enterprises that I've consulted to, I've told them exactly that, and brought a couple along to talk with you guys. I'm really just trying to brush up on the actual use cases of permissioned or private blockchains at the moment. So I thought I'd get you so I can clearly see what they are.
Well, so jumping back to Power Ledger, like I actually think that the way what they've done in issuing a token and trying to give that token value, which will then be used in their system to exchange electricity, is completely the wrong way to go about it. Like, the token should never have a value that is separate to the value of the energy that's being, if you issue a token for energy, it should be a 1 kilowatt hour token. And then when you buy a kilowatt hour of energy, it's one token. And
I don't think most token, you can't really have utility in a token, can you? If it's got a fluctuating value.
No, exactly.
As currency, it's just doesn't work. So yeah, I mean, okay, they're an Aussie company, aren't they? Are they well known down there? Or?
Look, I think they're well known in the crypto space, and people have heard of them and whatnot. But certainly since they came out, like, I'm certainly not seeing any big kind of penetration. You go on their website, so I literally have it open in my browser right now, and you go to their website, and it's they've got a few projects listed there, but I don't actually know that they're doing anything of any great significance. And I believe that it's because they are trying to do it with a token that's being openly traded on exchanges by people who don't really give a shit about the energy market. They just want number go up. And
I think Richard Branson was impressed with those guys and got behind it. You know,
Well, it's easy to put together a slick presentation that impresses executives who.
so I guess where I'm going with that is, you know, I fully understand the challenges of where we're all at the moment, and trying to explain this tech. You know, how are you guys faring? Where do you see a big breakthrough coming?
Look, I see it coming as we get enterprises to understand that this is not about, you know, this kind of number go up stuff. And it really, like, if I had the opportunity to go and stand in front of Richard Branson, you know, I've read his autobiography. One of the things I know about him is he always carries a notebook with him, and he writes everything down in his notebook. And he's got a whole big shelf full of these notebooks. And the story that I would give him is that, look, this is not about some kind of weird tech that does things in a way that you don't understand. It's simply a place where everybody has a book and they can go and write things down in that book. And there's a unit of account, and you can exchange things with other people. You can put numbers on their page, which allows them to spend that money. But it's really, it's not anywhere near, like, people think blockchain and they go, oh, my mind can't handle this. But it is not that difficult to understand. It's really not. And using blockchain really as the word and as the thing to bring people in is wrong, because it's not something that people can easily relate to. But when you start talking about a ledger, like an accounting book, which just basically is unlimited in size and scope and lets you write anything that you want into it. And so for an enterprise, that can be anything. So look at Weather SV. I think that's an outstanding project with huge potential moving forward. They're just taking weather data and writing it onto the ledger. And, you know, weather data live in and of itself, it's not really that valuable. And, you know, they buy like the weather data for the whole world for like $5 a day or some ridiculous price. But think in 100 years, when, you know, climate whatever's doing whatever, and there's all these arguments, like, so currently now we're getting all these arguments. People are pulling out these moldy old books that have weather records and saying, well, here's the data. And everyone's looking at it and going, well, how do we even know that that's real data? But what we can do now is we can say with 100% certainty, this is the weather reading that was recorded on this day at that time.
Right.
And there's massive value in that. And I think it's once we start to see companies, and it's not necessarily going to come from like a data recording system, but I think one of the big applications is going to be, and Craig Wright talks about this a lot, it's going to be electronic data interchange, or EDI. And that's kind of the back-end systems that big companies use to exchange pricing information and invoices and receipts when they're doing business. So if you're in the United States and you want to sell your product into Walmart, you have to have an EDI system. And these are quite expensive enterprise grade systems, and you must have that to do business with Walmart. And BSV can do this for fractions of the cost of what it is currently, and it can do it all in public. And so like this, or another application I think that's ripe for disruption is like airline tickets. So you think of an airline ticket so you buy the ticket, it gets written onto the ledger, right? You turn up at the airport and you go, there's my ticket on the ledger. And they go, yep, we can see that ticket. We put that there. That's your ticket. You're the name there. You go to get on the plane, you go, here's my ticket. It's right there on the ledger. Like it just becomes much more simple. Like you don't need these really sophisticated networks that link your 9 million kiosks that are all over the world to some data center in Germany like they have today. Everything just looks at the network and looks at the ledger. It just becomes so much more simple. And so I think so this is where the education that we're doing for the Bitcoin Association is going, I think, to pay big dividends. And so what we're preparing at the moment is sort of coursework and materials, and we're really in a process at the moment of building our own capability to provide training. And once we have that, we'll be able to go out and really spread that message much further and much wider. You know, really, we only have, so the Bitcoin Association, it's actually very small. There's only I don't know exactly how many people, but certainly it was less than 10 until quite recently.
Oh, really? I've probably met all of you then.
Oh, yeah, possibly. You know, if you were at Seoul, basically the whole lot was in Seoul. So you probably bumped into us all at some point.
Yeah.
It is starting to grow, though, and so the whole idea is to refine that messaging and really make it clear that you know, this is not about blockchain. This is not about some magic fairy dust that you can sprinkle on your back end and somehow make it do backflips that it was never able to do before. This is about doing the same things that we do today, but in a very different manner, such that it is in public but private and extremely secure and safe and very, very cheap. Like, so this is, you know, store of value. Like, imagine a system where you can store as much data as you want and it's as cheap as like a USB stick. Like, there's your store of value.
On that note, somebody that I had told to go and get a bit of BSV did so. She came back to me and said she couldn't store it. Is there a hardware or an offline solution for BSV?
Well, yeah. So I use I have a Ledger and I have both Ledger and Nano. Sorry, not Nano. Trezor.
Yep.
The only thing is, neither of them support it in their native wallet applications. So you have to use the hardware with a different application. I use Electrum SV.
Yep.
However, at the moment, I'm not really sure how long the support for those devices is going to be ongoing. So what a lot of people have started to do is to put just sort of consumer grade wallets onto old cell phones and just keep the cell phone and, you know, lock the wallet with, you know, Face ID or a password and keep it in a drawer. And I mean, I have cash on my wallet all the time. So I'm always like, if I get talking to people and they seem interested, I'm like, hey, you want, you know, $1? I just set them up with hand cash, ping them $1. It's super fast and very easy. But I keep the majority of it, on those cold storage systems.
So is it, I mean, we've okay, yeah, so sort of, you know, hand cash.
I mean,
where is the commerce at the moment? If I had, you know, if I had some BSV, so what'd you say? We've got Twitch and Streamanity, where would be places where I could, what else is out there at the moment that I'd be using?
Well, you can go to my website and buy.
Here we go. We haven't shown anything on this chat. Let's get into it.
You can buy Safe Words by Coin Storage Guru, which you can use to back up your 24-word mnemonic seed in a distributed manner. So across 3 different postcards, which have their own long-term storage envelopes with tamper-evident seals, and it's all very high-quality paper and all that kind of stuff. So if you go to my website, which is coinstorage.guru, you can click at the top and there's a link to a MetaNet store. And I'm sure you've probably heard the term MetaNet.
Absolutely.
People are starting to use it. And so one of the first things I did when this was revealed was get someone to help me put together my website on the MetaNet. And so it's actually, my website gets served up to you from the BSV network. So everything that you see is stored in BSV transactions that are on the ledger. It serves up in a browser, so it just gives the browser what it's expecting to see. But if you've got funds in a Money Button wallet, so Money Button is probably the most widely used wallet for web apps, and almost all of the websites that allow you to do stuff with BSV, like Weather SV, Bitstagram, all those kinds of things, they're all using the money button.
Yeah, I met that guy. He really impressed me. Geez, I forget his name.
Ryan X Charles.
Ryan X. Charles.
He's fantastic. He is a very I think inspirational guy. He talks at the technical on the technical days at all of these conferences, and he's always really great. And he built the money button, and just to see what people have done with that, and I play around with it myself. So just as a fun demo, you can just go and write a HTML page that pays out like 50 people when you swipe the money button. And so I was doing that, a couple of months ago just for fun. Yeah. And it's so
I've used it. You asked me at the top of this show, have I monetized what I do? And the simple answer is no, apart from somebody sent me a pretty good donation, actually. Like, set up money button and I'll send you a donation, which I did. So yeah. It's been the only crypto I've ever made. But for me, that's I've kind of wanted to spend a few years and understand what's going on. Hopefully, build somewhat of a reputation to I think remain as independent as I can for the foreseeable future. Maybe a year as I cover what's happening. I think there's this is the comment that I get from a lot of people, and I try to talk about the positive things in the Bitcoin space across the projects. Let people naturally find what they think's best, and clearly the market will decide the best project will win.
Absolutely. And
what I do think is a problem for just from and I say this to all the different projects. There's so many guys that are so vitriolic, and sometimes that can be a negative, where if you're trying to find someone believable, because I was a maximalist for quite a while, and that comes purely from the first people you learn from, and there's certain things that I suppose I was indoctrinated into that I find a little bit annoying looking back. So. I try to remain as impartial as possible and present here's what these projects are doing, and let them decide what works for them. So it's an interesting year ahead.
Extremely. I think 2020 is going to be, certainly for BSV with the Genesis upgrade. I think people are going to be shocked at how fast things start to grow on BSV once we have that Genesis upgrade, because essentially one of the things that this unlocks is no cap on the size of a transaction. So currently the maximum size of a transaction that can propagate across the network is only 100 kilobytes. But now we'll be faced with a system where you can push tens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of megabytes into a single transaction, house a whole movie behind a paywall in a single BSV transaction. Yeah. And so, when you start to think about, what I'm, the thing that I'm looking for, the point when I will know that we've done it right and we've made it, is when I see a company that posts $1 million of revenue over whatever the given time frame is, a year, a month, a week, whatever it is, but $1 million of revenue on the back of 1 billion transactions. That's what I want to see. And that's where we're going. Like, that's the power of microtransactions. You can now build a viable business that is based upon a service that you can sell for 1/10 of a cent. And as long as that service is simple enough that everyone's going to want to use it all day, every day, and you're going to get, millions and millions of users clicking your button 10 times a day for whatever it is to, make a fart sound. I don't know, whatever it is. That's possible. There's no way that you can do that today. You can't do that on any crypto network. You can't even do that today on BSV. But once we get to that point, that's when I will say, this is where we were meant to go. And that's still just, I think, an intermediate step. We have a lot further to go with this technology. I love to look to the future. And when you start to scale block size and you look at things like Moore's law, the Kreider rate, which is how fast hard drives improving capacity, Nielsen's law of networks and how fast they grow in bandwidth. And you go out like 50, 80, 100 years, we actually become these kinds of like technological beings where we're connected. We're literally consuming and creating like exabytes of information each per day, and for very little money onto the network. And it gets really interesting. But we can only do that. We can only achieve that if we focus immediately and forever on scaling all the time. And, BTC have chosen a path of total stagnation. I'd be very surprised if there aren't lots of people in that going, hey, it's pretty tepid and stinky in here. And, we're not doing much. Like we literally, where's the innovation? Where's the cool stuff that we were promised? And when they, like, one thing I see is we get people who come from BTC to BSV. We don't see anyone going the other way. They get here, they realize, and that's it. And eventually that it's a trickle at the moment, but that trickle is going to turn into a flood. And at a certain point, the dam will burst. But if you've not moved by then, I actually think there's going to be a point where it'll be too late. And don't be that guy.
Okay. Excellent. Well, listen, I've got a million other things I wanted to ask you, but we've been here for a while.
Yeah, it's getting pretty late. I gotta.
What are you there? Are you about 11 o'clock at night now, Dan?
Yeah.
Brisbane,
right.
is it right?
Yeah, Brisbane. Yeah.
So how are you guys sort of in clouds of smoke there as well, or are you okay?
No, we've been pretty lucky actually. So we had a couple of days of haze back kind of well before Christmas. But Queensland, we had a few fires up sort of a couple of 100 kilometers north of where I live back in kind of late November, early December. And I think, maybe 10 or 20 houses were destroyed, but certainly nothing comparable at all to what's been happening down south. So yeah, we're very lucky to have, I think, escaped. I don't know how much of that is due to the way that we manage the scrub up here up north, whether we just got better weather or what. But I'm very thankful. We actually did a road trip prior to Christmas, and we drove through just kilometers and kilometers of burned out forest. When we were in Canberra, it was pretty disgusting. We all got kind of sore throat, cough, respiratory problems from the smoke. And Sydney as well. They've had some absolutely shocking days, and
I was in
we're not even in the hottest month of summer yet. I think that's kind of the scary thing. February is the bad month, and so to have all of this, it started in the spring. It started in the late spring, and it's kind of hasn't stopped at all. So, I hope. One of the things that I have been learning about is land management and looking at how the indigenous people used to manage the forests. and it was done in such a way that these kinds of things, I mean, I don't think you can completely eliminate these kinds of large-scale fires, but you can massively reduce the potential for them to happen, and you can also massively reduce the scale of them when they do happen. So I think that's something that we need to start taking much more seriously in Australia. And it's I think something that I plan to make a bit of a personal kind of side mission of trying to move that discussion forward. Because it's, you know, I live very close to a forest. We're only 300, 400 meters from the Mount Coot-tha forest, which joins on to, I think I was reading, it's the largest national park that's so close to the CBD of a city in the world. So we're only about 4 kilometers from the CBD of Brisbane here, but the park starts like literally just around the corner from my house. Right. And I look at that, and I look at some of the places where all the houses got burnt down, and I think, geez, you know, we're not so different from them. And if we're not properly managing this, one day that's going to be us on the. That's something else to think about as well. And
yeah, well, you might all have to move to New Zealand, reverse the flow.
I love New Zealand. I grew up in New Zealand, actually. So we,
I'm a Kiwi originally.
Yeah, I was born here in Australia, but we moved over there when I was about 7 or 8, and we spent 4 years in the South Island in a little town called Palmerston, which was it's about 50 kilometers north of Dunedin. So most people go Palmerston North, and no, definitely not Palmerston North.
I was about to say, now I know why there is a Palmerston North, and for those of you that have never been to Palmerston North,
don't go.
Don't do it.
Go to Palmerston.
Do it. Trust me.
Palmerston is a beautiful little town. It's a gold mining town.
Yeah. Palmerston North's a shithole. I lived there for a year. I did a year of university there, and I worked so hard so I could get a scholarship to get the hell out of there to another university, and I did. Sorry to anyone from Palmerston North.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Yeah. All right, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Brendan. I'd love to do it again in the coming weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Would love to. Thanks very much, Sean. I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, you know what? I'm probably going to catch up with one of your business partners, George, I think, here in
in
a week or two. So
great.
Maybe we can all jump on for a chat together.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. Yeah. It's great working with George. He's really he brings a really interesting perspective, and that has led some really interesting people to us. So looking forward.
We didn't really talk about what FIRE is. So maybe I think he's back around the 20th. He mentioned to me. So possibly a good opportunity.
He's off to Bali. The poor bugger.
Oh, is he? Where does he live?
Yeah. He lives in Singapore.
He lives in Singapore. Okay. Right.
Cool. Well, yeah, we can talk about all that with George. That'll be an interesting chat.
Let's do that. All right, mate. Nice one. We'll tee that up offline. But thanks to everybody who's tuned in. Sorry we didn't talk about number go up, but I think it might. Brendan's not allowed to say.
One day we'll do it. And I promise we'll talk number go up.
Okay, mate. Good talking with you.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Catch you later. Cheers, mate.
All right, see ya.
Bye-bye.